Okay, today we're doing the and I don't know why, but how could anyone miss problem number 1? What does RSTUV mean? Because remember, you get to bring notes with you when you come to take the test. So you should have written on your notes, what does RSTUV mean? And then on the test, it will ask a question about, does R mean read? It'll have 3 or 4 choices, but if you bring that information from page 46, what does RSTUV mean? You just put that in your notes and bring it with you. And the reason I'm saying this, why did that thing go off on me? I tell you, these computers, they have a mind of their own, don't they? If I want it to go off, I'll tell it to go off. Well, you weren't doing anything, so I went to sleep. Well, I'll tell you when to go to sleep. So, but I've actually had students miss that one. And after the test, we come in here and talk about it. I guess you know, don't you? Or have you heard that after you take the test on Monday, now normally on Wednesday, I would give the test back after class on Wednesday, and we would go over it to help you figure out why you missed something. But on Wednesday is day of prayer, so we won't have our next math class. We'll have math class on Monday, then we won't have another math class until Friday. But on Friday, when we come to math class on Friday, we'll cover topic 2.1. But then after we finish topic 2.1, then I'll have all of your exams up here and or over there on that table, if I'm still contagious or whatever I have. And you can put your homework over there so you don't get close to me. And then I'll sit down here with you and just talk through the exam and figure out why you missed it. And I said, how could you miss the first one? Didn't you bring notes? And I actually have people tell me, you know, I left my notes in my room. Now, if I was here to take a test and I remembered I left my notes in my room, I'm thinking I would go back to my room and get my notes and come back, and there's plenty and stay extra to finish the test. I think it's this multiple choice test thing that really messes with people. And I'm just telling you, one of the things I want you to learn, along with learning how to do math, is learning how to demonstrate your ability to do math by successfully passing a multiple choice math test. Which seems strange, because what it really means is that your grade on an exam on a multiple choice math test will not always represent what you really know in math, because of the way the tests are constructed and because of the mindset that we've developed over the years about multiple choice tests. So we're going to use multiple choice tests, and I give this little lecture every time thinking that nobody's going to miss the first question. They're just going to have the answer in their notes. They're going to look at their notes and get it right. Well, we'll find out on Monday, won't we? Question 2, what is inductive reasoning? Okay, that's on page 46. You write that down, put it in your notes, and bring it with you. I'm not expecting you to memorize this information. I just want you to have it in your notes so when you see it on the test, you can answer it correctly. Number 3, identify the pattern. Okay, now this is a little different than what's happened before. 1, 2, 7, 19, 41, 76, and they want the next three. And how did I get from 1 to 2? By adding 1. Everybody see that? How did I get from 2 to 7? By adding 5. How did I get from 7 to 19? By adding 12. How did I get from 19 to 41? Is that how far it goes? No. By adding 22. How did I get from 41 to 76? By adding 35. Now, do you see a pattern? I don't. So watch what you do. If you don't see a pattern, you jump down to the next row. How do I get from 1 to 5? By adding 4. How do I get from 5 to 12? By adding 7. How do I get from 12 to 22? By adding 10. You see what I'm doing? How do I get from 22 to 35? By adding 13. How do I get from 35 to 51? By adding, where'd it go? Oh, that would be the next one, wouldn't it? Adding 16. You'll say, how do you know that? Well, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16. Do you see a pattern now? How do I get from 4 to 7? By adding 3. From 7 to 10? By adding 3. From 10 to 13? By adding 3. So now I know the pattern for this row. Add 3 to 13 and I get 16. Add 3 to 16 and I get 19. Add 3 to 19 and I get 22. Everybody follow what I'm doing? Now we go back up. I add 4 to 1 to get 5. I add 7 to 5 to get 12. I add 10 to 12 to get 22. I add 13 to 22 to get 35. Then I add 16 to 35 to get 51. Everybody see that? 16 and 35 is 51. And then the next number, I add 19 to 51, and that gives me 70. Everybody follow that? The math going too fast here? Get your calculator out. I'm doing it mentally, but if you can't do mental math like that, then get your calculator out and just do this stuff with your calculator. I'll get mine out too, so nobody feels embarrassed about using a calculator. Remember, I'm the guy that just loves doing math. I add 22 plus 13, and I get 35. Then I go 35, and I go down and add that 16. 35 plus 16, and what did I get? What'd you get? What's 35? What's 35 plus 16? 51. Everybody see that? Then after 16 is 19, what's 51 plus 19?
7.
Get your calculator. What's 51 plus 19? What is it?
70.
70. Thank you. So now, and what's the next one after 19? 22. What's 70 plus 22? 92. Everybody follow where these numbers are coming from? Now we're still not there, because now we have to go back up to the first row. I added 1 to 1 to get 2, 5 to 2 to get 7. Everybody see that? Maybe I should change colors here. 1 to 1. No, that's not the right color to use. 1 to 1 to get, what in the world? Change to that one. 1 to 1. Well, it doesn't want to change that. There we go. 1 to 1 to get 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 12 is 19. 19 plus 22 is 41. You see what's going on? Yes or no? Because this is on the test. And by the way, you can bring your notes from the practice test to the exam to help you work through the exam. So you can have this little picture right there with you. 41 plus 35 is what? You go. Now, see, I was just going to do it mentally, but some of you are looking at me like 41. So you punch in 41 plus what? 35 equals 76. There's where 76 came from. Now then I go 76. See if I can get my hand steady enough here to do this. 76 plus 51. Now, does everyone see where I got the 51 from working my way up from the bottom? 76 plus 51 equals 127. So that's where 127 comes from. And then 127 plus what? 70 equals 197. And then 197 plus 92, get your calculator out, 289. So what are the next three numbers after 41 and 76? 127, 197, and 289. This is not rocket science. It's just walking around the park enough times till you've, and the thing is, the trick here is, see, math is, there's a book in the library called Math Magic. It's written for elementary school teachers, but really what it is, math is just a bunch of magic tricks. And the trick here is that when I start looking for a pattern, if I don't see the pattern in the first row, then I jump down a row, and can you see I could go down as many as 4 or 5 rows till I find a pattern. Then once I find the pattern, I just work my way back up again. And see, for some of us, it's fun doing that. For you, it's work, but it's worth the work because it makes for a good grade in math, which is always a fun thing to have, even if you don't like math. Okay, so any questions on number 3? So the question on the test will be like this one, not like some of the easier ones that were in your homework. Okay? Number 4, follow this procedure. What's it say to do?
Follow the procedure.
Select a number. So, someone want to pick a number? 5. Multiply by 4. What'd you get?
20.
20. Add 6. What did you get? 26. Divide by 2. What do you get?
13.
13. Subtract 3. What do you get?
10.
10. So the original number was 5 that somebody picked, and the end result was 10. Well, that probably doesn't mean anything to you yet, but you might want to write that down on the side just for fun, because look what problem 4 says to do. Follow these steps using the numbers 1. Let me change back to red here. 1, 10, and 100. So now they're telling me what to use, and they'll tell you on the test what numbers to use too. And do the same 4 steps again. What was I supposed to do? Multiply by 4, add 6, divide by 2, and subtract 3. And when I put in 1, I ended up with 2. When I put in 10, I ended up with 20. When I put in 100, I ended up with 200. When we put in 5, what did we end up with? 10. Remember that? So, the first question is, what are the results when you put in 1, 10, and 100? And that'll be one of the questions on the test. And what you'll be looking for is 2, 20, and 200. If this were the exact question. The numbers are changed, but it's the same process, okay? I know some of you are thinking, if the practice test is like the real test, and he's telling us he's showing us how to do the practice test, and we can take our practice test to the real test, how could anyone fail this test? I don't know. It's a multiple choice test, that's why, and people mess up on multiple choice tests. And you have to kind of do a work in your head to keep this stuff straight. So now, can anyone make a conjecture? Have we done enough conjecturing in this class so far? Can you make a conjecture about the relationship between the original number and the final result? What?
The number doubled.
The final result is double the original number. That's the conjecture. Okay, number 5. Any questions? Are we all together here? Number 5. Round 319.26 to the nearest tenth. Not the nearest 10, but the nearest tenth. Now, it could be on the test, it would say to the nearest 10. So you have to know your place values. Now, if we're going to round to the nearest tenth, so that means our answer is either going to be 319.2 or 319.3. That's what rounding is all about. You're either going to round down or round up. You're going to leave it at 319.2 or make it 319.3. Now, what would be your preference?
Round up.
Because
the number is what?
6 is higher than 5.
Because it's followed by what?
6.
A 6. If the number that follows it is 5 or more, remember being taught that rule? You round up. You go, oh, I'd forgotten that. Well, write it down in your notes. So the answer would be 319.3. But do you understand? On the test, it'll say one choice will be 319.2. Or it'll actually have this as one of the choices too. It'll have 320. Just in case, when you read tenths, your mind said tens because you don't like decimals. I'm just telling you. That's why math multiple choice tests don't often show all that you really know mathematically. And I want you to learn how to read a test accurately and be careful with it and not let it mess you up. And then 5B is to the nearest 100. To the nearest 100 would be here. There's hundreds. So now I'm either going to leave it 300 or make it what? 400. Which is it closer to? 300. So rounded to the nearest 100, it's 300. Any questions? Okay, let's read the meter. Now, here's another problem. On the practice test, they put little red lines on the meter. On the real test, there will be no red lines on the meter. But it doesn't matter, because what do? You put your pencil at 0, and where do you go after 0? 987 or 123?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so whichever way your pencil's going, you go around and say, okay, where are we? And when you follow your pencil around to where the marker is, what's the number you see? Where does the marker stop? At 5, 6, or 7?
6.
6. And then you go to the second one, put your pencil on 0, and follow 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, I already went past it. Where's the marker? It's between 0 and 1. So what number do I put underneath?
0.
0. That's exactly right, because it hasn't passed the 1 yet. Then look at the third. Look at the third one here. Put your pencil on 0, follow it 1, 2, 3, 4 around, and where does the marker stop? What's the last number you passed before you got to the marker?
6.
6. Then go to the fourth one. Goes the other way. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, did all of us come up with 6064 for our reading the meter? Now, here's the tough thing about this. On the test, if you read the meter wrong, you're going to miss the next 2 problems. And any possible mistake you can make in reading the meter, he will have that as one of the choices. Just telling you, that's the way the test is written. So your meter reading is 6064, and yesterday's reading was 6002. How many kilowatt hours have you consumed since yesterday? The meter keeps going up, so you subtract, and you end up with 62 kilowatt hours. If a kilowatt hour cost 10 cents, how much was your one-day bill? What's 10 cents times 62 kilowatt hours?
$6.
$6.20? Or is it 62 cents? Or is it $62? Well, the guy who wrote the test will put all 3 possibilities down there just to mess with you. Or he might even put down $6.10. Just knowing that some people make that kind of mistake in their computations. If you estimate the same consumption each day for 30 days, 30 days, what's your bill for the month? Is that right? $186? Bring a calculator with you to take the test, to check your math, so you don't miss one just by making a mental mistake in mathematics. Any questions? I know this test looks too easy. And I don't know. Probably I should just bring the grades from the previous test and show you how many people failed it. What? I'm just telling you. People come in here and whip through this test and whoa, it's done, and they're out of here in 10 minutes. And you just know, driving that fast, you're going to make a mistake. Go back and check your work and make sure you're doing it right. Okay, number 7. The relationship between the height of a person and the length of their tibia is, for a male, so which one do I have here? H is, okay, so I have the one for a female, don't I? Why did I put down the female and not copy down the male one?
Because it says female.
Because 7a says, estimate the height of a person to the nearest inch with a 15-inch tibia if the person is female. Now, watch. This is where people will make a mistake on the test. They'll go, okay, so which formula will they pick? The first one. They won't even think about male or female. They just pick the first formula and use it and get the answer wrong. So, but because it said female, then I'm using the female formula. H is 28.6 plus 2.5 times the length of the tibia. Estimate the height of a person to the nearest inch with a 15-inch tibia. And if I take, now let's get your calculators out. If I take 15 times 2.5, I get 37.5. And if I add to that 28.6, I get 66.1. And that will be one of the answers on the test. And you go, aha, that's my answer. And you circle it, and you turn the test in and find out when you get your test back, you missed it. Why is that the wrong answer? Why is 66.1 the wrong answer?
You're supposed to round to the nearest inch.
What?
Round to the nearest inch.
Because it said round it to the nearest inch. So read the directions carefully.
Listen.
Do the same as in part A if the person is male. Well, I guess we better run over here. And what is it?
The male.
Let's change colors here again. Try this one. What does that work? H equals 32.2. No, that's not thick enough. Let's try another one. 32.2 plus 2.4 times the tibia. And do the same as in part A if the person is male. So we put 15 here for T. And then we take 15 times 2.4 equals 36. And then we add to that 32.2. And we get 68.2. And what would be the correct answer? Now, if it said if it was a male, then you'd be using the male formula. And is that the correct answer, 68.2? No, because it said round it to the nearest inch, so it would be 68. All right. Number 8. The circle graphs at the top of page 49 show the budget requirement and resources for the city of St. Petersburg. All right. So there's the pictures. There's what the shaded regions mean. Now, what's the first question? What's the biggest category in the requirements chart? Now, you know where your eyes want to go? The biggest requirement in the first chart is what? Property taxes? But what's the first chart?
Resources.
Resources. What chart are they telling you to look at?
Requirements.
Yeah. So see how the guy knows your mind wants to go to the first one? So he'll ask a question about the second chart. So you have to read the directions carefully and say, okay, so go to the requirements chart and say, now, what's the biggest category? Well, it's blue. Yeah, but blue in the requirements chart doesn't mean property taxes. In the requirements chart, blue means what? Public safety. Okay? So look at the right chart, look at the right categories. Question B, About what fraction of the requirement is for public safety? About how much of that pie is public safety?
Half.
1/2. C. What's the smallest category in the resources chart? You see what he just did? He's got you looking at the requirements chart. Now he asks a question about the resources chart. And he knows a whole bunch of people are going to go right back up to the requirements chart and pick non-departmental. And that will be one of the choices on the test as an answer. Because he knows what people are thinking, so he's like he's leading you down the wrong path and then putting the answer that you come to down as one of the choices when he knows it's wrong. Wait till you take the test and you look at the choices. You go, the guy who wrote this test is disgusting. And just realize that. The people who write these math tests, they sit around looking for ways to make people who know math look like they don't know it. And part of your job in this class is to understand math, but also to develop some skill in math multiple choice test taking. You'll be amazed that when you finish this, because the next time you see math in your life after you finish taking this class, it will probably be a test that will be a multiple choice math test. And what'll be funny is you'll go, well, now I see why Dr. Bonite had us do all those multiple choice tests. Because now I see exactly what's going on here. And there'll be people around you just whipping through those things, checking them off like, well, this is a giveaway program. And then when they're finished, somebody goes, well, you didn't do very well on this. What? How could that be? I knew all this stuff. Because the guys who wrote the test just messed with you. Okay, so what's the smallest category in the resource chart? Back over to the resource chart. And what is the smallest category?
Sales tax.
Sales tax. You look at the color, then you look at what the color means. Number 9, the bar graph shows the property tax, which is what? Orange, versus police and fire expenses, which are green, for the city of St. Petersburg. Question A, how much were the property taxes?
50 million.
In 1990. 1990 is the first column. Property taxes, orange. What is it?
50 million.
50. I'm looking at 1990. And I'm going up to where the orange lines up with the numbers on the left. What number does the orange column line up with? Here's 50, and the next one is 64. You see that? What would you say?
50.
50. 50. Good choice. What were the police and fire expenses in 1990? It's kind of tough, isn't it? Making estimates. Anybody want to guess?
53.
53? Anybody else have a guess? Say
I'm
no.
saying 52.
52? Anybody else have a guess? So we've got two guesses, 52 and 53. Oh, so what's going to happen when we look at the choices on the test? What's the correct answer? Look at the next page and it'll tell you. What's the correct answer? 54?
51.
51? So what if there was a 51, a 52, and a 53? There won't be. They won't be that close together. So if you thought 52 or 53, and the key answer is 51, the choices would probably be 45, 51, 58. You follow me? Yours will be close enough to where, okay, I'm closest to this one. C, estimate the police and fire expenses for 2002. So I go clear over to the year 2002. That's the last column. And what am I looking at? Police and fire. That's green. I run up the green column all the way to, what number is that?
82.
82. Anybody else have a number? Does that look good to everybody? Is that close enough for the answer key? On the next page. D, estimate the property taxes for 2002. 2002. Oh, that's still over here. And now we're looking at property taxes, orange. Go up to 2002, up to orange. What number is that?
64.
64. Oh, you know what? I know how the guy will catch you on the test. One will say 64 and the other one will say $64 million. Which one's correct?
Million.
What?
Million.
64, because see, turn your head sideways. 64 millions of dollars. Just like on the last question that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Now, even though there's only 10 questions on this test, there's 20 questions on mine, on the exam. So that means there's a few more questions, just the same kind of stuff, that they're just going to ask you more questions in regard to this stuff here. But that would be the way they catch you on the test. They would have one question, one answer said 64, and the other one say $64 million. Estimate the property tax. Now, what's the difference in property taxes in 1998? So you go back to 1998, property taxes, orange, go up to orange. What number is it? What's that all about? Any reason why you're doing that to me, machine? Who knows? Come on. Nobody asked you to do that. How sad. How sad. Well, oh, it looks like we're back there. I know if you talk mean to it, it just spaces out on you, so you have to talk nice no matter what. Talk nice, talk nice. There it is. There it is. Fill up the screen. Okay. So, property taxes in 1998 were 50. And what were property taxes in 2002?
64.
64. So what's the difference? 64 minus 50?
It's a $14 million difference.
There you go. And that's the way they'll probably say one choice would be 14 and the other would be $14 million. And that's the same with this last question here. And well, we'll just work this last question. The line graph shows the 30-year fixed rate mortgage on different dates. What's the rate on 5/15? So you look at 5/15 and go up and say, what's the rate on 5/15? Well, it looks like it's halfway between 686 and 696. 6.86% and 6.96%. What would be halfway between those two?
6.91.
6.91%. So what's the rate on 5/15? 6.91%. Now turn the page and check the answer. And your answer says 6.91. And that's wrong. And that's why you better fix your answer key on this thing, because I had somebody say, well, yeah, but on the practice test, it didn't have the percent sign with it. I said, yes, and do you remember I told you? That was the wrong answer. Because on the real exam, here's what they'll have. 6.91 and 6.91%. And which one is the correct answer? 6.91%. Because you're talking about a percent here, a rate of percent. So what's the rate on 515? 6.91%. So just correct the answer in your answer book, because the answer is wrong. Then they do the same thing for B. What's the rate on 6.5? Go over to 6.5. And what's the rate? You don't want to tell me? Go up to where the green line is, and what's the number?
6.76%.
6.76%. Thank you. 6.76%. And see, you turn it on and say, yep, and it says 6.7 cents. No, it should say percent. Add a percent to that. They've done a misprint in the book. Here's why that happens. Sometimes they have graduate assistants go through their books and figure out the answer keys for them, but they don't let the graduate assistants make up the exams. And the graduate assistants get a little careless in what they're doing. It should say 6.76%. And then when it says C, 10C, what's the difference in the rates between 515 and 6.5? The difference is 6.91% minus 6.76%, and the difference is, turn my red back on here, the difference is 6.91 minus 6.76, and these are percents, remember. 0.15%. And what does your answer key say? There it says 0.15, and it's not. It's 0.15%. Yes.
Your device disconnected from the.
I what?
Your
It
the
disconnected
device
when it
is
turned off.
disconnected.
What happened? Did I turn this thing off? When I was fooling around a while ago, hitting buttons, I turned it off, huh? So you can't see all this cute little stuff I was writing here. Well, then let's see if we can minimize this and get this thing hooked back up again. Because this is important for the test. It makes a difference. Write those, what is this called? Those Surface Go people a letter and say, is there some way I can fix this thing so it doesn't shut down on me when it's just tired of sitting there being idle?
You can go to the settings and you can put in an option of like
Stay
how
on?
how long you can stay on.
I'll go home and work on that. Because when I first got it, I'd touch the edge and the thing would do something funny, and somebody said, go to the settings and do this. You people got to help us old folks out. We don't drive these things unless we have to. Okay, so now can you see my stuff up there where I did it in red? So I took 6.91% minus 6.76%, and the answer is 0.15%, not 0.15. Because 0.15% is really 0.0015. So be sure and correct those answers from the answers to the practice test. Correct question 10 answers, because if you do on the test what they're showing you doing here, oh, you'll miss those 3 questions that have to do with the last question. And then the last one, what seems to be the trend for 30-year fixed rate mortgages? What seems to be the trend?
Decreases.
They're what?
Decreasing.
They're decreasing. But it looks like to me they're decreasing. And that's it. That's the test. And maybe that's why people don't do as well as they thought they would when they get their test back, is because they thought the test was too easy. So now that we're done with this test, I'm just going to sit here. Well, I guess the first thing I'm going to do is turn off this recording, and then I'm just going to sit here and answer your questions. Where did the... Oh, okay.